If anything, the most sinister thing about dark matter is the fact that it could possess whoever it wanted to do its
That's kind of insane.
including and usually limited to King
Wait,
DDD. However,
do you know what's really interesting about this already? That's the antithesis to Kirby's ability. Welcome back, I'm Kieran. I'm a huge Nintendo fan, but I've not really played much Kirby. The most I've done is played some of Kirby in the Forgotten Land, but I haven't finished the game. So when we reacted to all the smash attacks in Smash Bros. Ultimate, a lot of people wanted me to react to Kirby lore. I know from word on the street that Kirby is apparently like the strongest character in Smash Bros. Sakurai made him broken as hell. I don't know why. I don't know what makes Kirby the strongest compared to other characters like Mewtwo, who is psychic and control things, and Sora from Kingdom Hearts, who is, I guess he's kind of like a little Disney god, but Sephiroth. How is Kirby more powerful than Sephiroth? This is what I need to know. This is what's going to keep me awake at night. So we're going to watch the RPG Manga's video explaining Kirby lore. If you guys haven't seen it already, make sure to go and check out the original video. It's going to be left in the description. And yeah, 1,000 likes on this video, and I'll play the end of Kirby and the Forgotten Land and react to it over on this channel as well. Huge shout out to new subscribers of the day, Mutton Bash and Devontae Henderson.
long ago, in a time before pink puffs and air rides, there lived the ancients, an entire civilization completely shrouded in mystery. Save for a few key relics they left behind. But who cares about any of that, because...
Hold on. So Kirby lore actually includes predating Kirby already. Because of what I've seen from Kirby, those games are so cute, and there's a lot of platforming, and that's very cool. I didn't expect it to expand into way before Kirby's character, so I'm already excited about this.
On an unrelated planet far, far away, there lived an innocent pink puff named Kirby, a being with unlimited power who usually likes to spend his days eating, sleeping, or some variation of the two. However, this would all change when a certain self-proclaimed monarch would steal all the food in Dreamland, initiating a rivalry that would be sure to last an eternity. Or...
Wait, you telling me that Kirby and King Dedede hate each other because he stole his food? This is a beef about food. They have galactic beef over beef.
At least when they felt like it. As while King
Why he got Mickey Mouse on his back? I never realized that.
Antagonist in the Kirby timeline, he'd soon transition into less of an actual villain and more of an ally slash punching bag for Kirby.
It's almost like Bowser, right?
Game in the series. Since whether it be Dedede trying to prevent Kirby from releasing an actual nightmare demon, or just being possessed by an otherworldly force,
what the hell?
Never seems to catch a break.
Felt like he was possessed by an unknown from Pokemon.
That brings us to our first real piece of Kirby lore. Dark matter, first revealing itself in...
Is this the exact same thing that in the previous scene had just possessed him? Because that's crazy.
Dark matter is an amorphous dark entity, more often than not,
as in literal dark matter.
Sphere with an eye in the center. At first, especially in its debut, dark matter seemed to be a pretty simple antagonist, what with its only goal being to shroud the world in darkness. If anything,
damn, alright.
Sinister.
When I think Sword and Kirby, I always think like Meta Knight. Obviously having played Smash Bros, but yo, Kirby be wielding swords, especially when he got that Link hat on, so...
If anything, the most sinister thing about dark matter is the fact that it could possess whoever it wanted to do its
That's kind of insane.
Including and usually limited to King
DDD. However, do you know what's really interesting about this already? That's the antithesis to Kirby's ability. He can possess people to make them do his will, but Kirby has the ability to temporarily eat and spit people out and then use their abilities for himself. That's actually kind of funny.
However, while the first appearance of dark matter was more of a lone force, attacking Dreamland solely because it was lonely and had no friends, that's actually real, by the way. In Kirby's
that's kind of sad.
The next installment of the dark matter trilogy, we would finally begin to see the bigger picture in terms of this ambiguous
like the Deoxys of Kirby?
Zero, the supposed source and leader of dark matter, who much like the
you can send out multiple.
Dreamland in an effort to engulf the planet in darkness. Though unlike the lone dark matter that had attacked before, Zero comes much closer to completing its mission, with the planet becoming fairly engulfed before Kirby...
Hold on, who the hell is this human child? We got human children in Kirby? This is the first I'm hearing of it.
to it, but how exactly did he put a stop to it? Well,
did he?
let
That's
me
the wrong game.
explain, because yes, this is important. Essentially, dark matter in general, alongside being made up of, well, dark matter, are beings of concentrated negative energy and emotions, making their only real weakness the opposite of that, positive emotions.
So Kirby being
Just
happy
take
and
the
positive
aptly
is what
named
takes it
Love
out.
Love Stick, a weapon forged from the gratitude of everyone Kirby helped along the way, which proved to
Like
be
Kirby's
the
Spirit
downfall
Bomb.
of Zero and its cronies. However, that being said, not all dark matter are necessarily evil. Take Gooey, for example.
This thing looks like a
member of
slime
dark
from Dragon
matter that
Quest.
somehow broke away from Zero's control altogether and formed a will of its own.
Wait, that's actually kind of dope. So there's a version of dark matter that's like a cute little Kirby companion. Off the bat, there is already so much that is interesting. We're 3 minutes into this video, and I feel like I've learned a lot.
Next up, after Zero was seemingly brutally annihilated on
What his eye? Is he an Uchiha with a red eye?
Attack a faraway planet known as Ripple Star, engulfing the planet,
little fairies.
much like a certain orb we all know and love. Unfortunately for them, though, dark matter struck fast this time.
Are these the little people that I said were little children earlier? Because that would make a lot more sense to me.
And Ripple Star ended up completely succumbing to its invaders, save for one inhabitant that escaped with the only means to stop them. Now I won't
ride
give
a
you
little gem like
complete
Kobe rides on
summary
a
of
star, that's
Kirby
cool.
64, since aside from dark matter possessing some familiar faces and the mysterious ruins on Rockstar,
Is that Waddle
there
Dee?
really isn't that much to unpack in the beginning. Instead, it's towards the end of the game that things really start taking a turn for the dark when Kirby arrives at the 5th planet in the game, Shiver Star. Because I mean, it kind of speaks.
What the hell was even happening just there? Why did he go through a Doctor Strange portal ring just now to another? What the? So like, there's intergalactic travel, sure. There's like very Super Mario Galaxy, right? Was there ever like any interlinking between Super Mario Galaxy and Kirby? Because you would think that would be the perfect time to do so, right?
It kind of speaks for itself, doesn't it? Plus, hey, I guess this kind
Wait,
of
that's Earth?
explains where Adeline came from.
Oh no, that is a human child.
Her ancestors. Though moving
What?
on to the corrupted Ripple
Wait,
Star,
we died?
after
Humans
defeating
died?
Miracle Matter and expunging the planet of all dark matter,
Kirby
the
is
Dark Star
post-apocalyptic.
reveals itself with a familiar face at its core. But hold up a minute, wasn't
Dark
Zero
Matter leader.
destroyed in Kirby's Dreamland 3? Well, kinda. In the case of 64, it's heavily implied Zero was revived using the body that was cast away towards the end of its first fight.
I see.
So after yet another
Just because you destroyed his Sharingan doesn't mean the actual body himself is dead. That's crazy. So he just got like a replacement, like he was Madara or something. That makes sense.
Another mildly disturbing battle in a game made for kids, dark matter was once again supposedly defeated, never to return again. At least for another game.
I was about to say,
So
that
taking a
fool's
step
definitely coming back,
from
huh?
Dark matter, let's talk Kirby Superstar. Now, lore-wise, there isn't that much to be had here, what with most of the sub-games being standalone stories, like Dynablade or Revenge of Meta Knight, where
Okay,
Meta
there are a
Knight
lot of
attempts
Kirby
to
games.
start an actual war just to get Dreamland's inhabitants to be less lazy. But
Brother, a war just so that people aren't lazy. First of all, what the hell is wrong with being lazy? You can't let people relax and have a good time?
undoubtedly, aside from those, the most important sub-game within the game is
Milky Way Wishes.
where Kirby is
Like the
tricked
chocolate
by
bar?
the scheming jester Marx into summoning Galactic Nova, a mysterious clockwork star of then unknown origin. You see,
You know what this looks like? He looks like the dude that reflects physical.
You see, once Nova is summoned by someone, it has
The
the
7
power to
stars, what is
grant
it, Super Mario
one
RPG?
wish, no matter how small or large. So in turn, after Marx got the sun and moon to fight each other in order to trick Kirby, literally
Who
all
won?
it took
I bet
was for
Solgaleo won that
Kirby
one.
in to say his wish first to turn the seemingly harmless machine into a force of mass destruction, with it taking the might of both the sun and the moon to stop its advance. Though of course, even with all that said, the both of them never stood a chance against the seemingly bottomless pit of power that is Kirby, as he quickly
blew it
defeated them
up?
in no time at all. But it
Is that
doesn't
not
end
like... Is that not like blowing up Shenron from Dragon Ball? That's kind of crazy. And what do you mean the power of the sun and the... What the hell is going on in Kirby? Now I kind of get why people say that like Kirby has got to be like the strongest. Like some of these feats and just like things that are already happening in the world are kind of insane.
But it doesn't end there, because 12 years later, Kirby Superstar would be remade into Kirby Superstar Ultra, bringing with it a massive new load of information to add on to the existing story. Simply put, with Superstar Ultra came the beginning of one of HAL's favorite new ways to sneak in lore where you'd least expect it: pause screen descriptions.
What? Like it's an anime?
They'd become far more important in the following games. But
that's really interesting.
Aside, so most importantly,
a lot of the lore is in the pause screens.
4 completely new sub-games on top of the original 7. There was Revenge of the King, a direct sequel to the very first game.
Not Day-Day-Day's face, look at this fool.
Helper to Hero, a version of the arena only with Helper.
Sorry, can somebody explain to me what the hell I'm looking at right here? This is like Kirby, if Kirby was like a Saiyan, you know?
And the star of the show, Meta Nightmare Ultra, where for the very first time, you get to play as the infamous Knight himself.
Awesome, so this was Meta Knight's first game.
Is a bit of a tricky case, since technically the events that take place in it aren't exactly canon. Instead, they're more of a what-if scenario, where the events that take place within the modes flesh out certain aspects of the lore, while never canonically taking place within the main story.
So I was kind of hoping that this was going to be a situation like Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, where you see like one side and you see the other side, but that's cool too, I guess. Case
in point, Galactonite, the final boss of the mode and strongest warrior in the galaxy, sealed away due to fear of his immense power, has technically never made an appearance in the main series canon. Though at the same time, that doesn't mean he doesn't exist somewhere out there and could.
So he was like Super Saiyan 4 before Daima.
Series canon at any time. The True Arena also falls under this category as well, serving as a what-if scenario with the conception of Mark's soul, a stronger version of Mark's who, after surviving the explosion of Nova, absorbed his power to get revenge on Kirby.
Okay, it's not what I thought it was. I thought it was going to be Kirby's... I thought it was going to be one of those weapons that you see in Smash Bros. I don't often play Smash with weapons on, but like the shape of it looked very similar.
By far the most important aspect of this is his new pause screen description, as it contains some pretty heavy foreshadowing. To quote, he absorbed
I've definitely seen this guy.
Power to bring back his evil soul. Notice the fact it says a Novas instead of the Novas. While there is a
multiple.
chance it could be a translation error, considering the events of future Kirby games, I'm not so sure. Though we'll get to that later, because next up on the chopping block is Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, an incredibly important game in terms of lore, as it contains the first instance of the mirror dimension. To start,
mirror dimension.
Top, high in the skies above Dreamland, there exists a mirror portal into the mirror world, a complete reflection of Dreamland, including mirror.
That's kind of cool.
To its inhabitants. One day,
this is kind of like A Link Between Worlds with Zelda.
After sensing a dark force emanating from the mirror, Meta Knight took action to stop the evil at its source, diving directly into the mirror world, only to be immediately ambushed by his evil counterpart, Dark Meta Knight. Plus,
Dark Meta Knight, okay.
Injury, he'd also come out of the mirror to attack Kirby as well, splitting him.
I was about to ask a question, but he's literally just going to answer it. I was like, what do you mean there's multiple Kirby, but he's been split?
To 4 versions of himself, much like another certain Nintendo game that...
There are a lot of Zelda comparisons here. I just made one with A Link Between Worlds, but yeah, that's really interesting. Okay.
Came out around this time, but similarities aside,
Nintendo really wanted you to have 4 players running around in all their games, apparently.
Once and for all, the true mastermind is revealed, Darkmind, and wouldn't you know it, he's the mirror world equivalent.
I was gonna say, this looks just like Zero.
Much like Zero corrupted the normal one, though thankfully,
interesting.
Once Darkmind was defeated, the mirror
is that Dark Kirby?
in the hands of
like Mirror Kirby,
who would continue to protect it in Meta Knight's and Kirby's stead. Now nothing bad will ever come from the mirror world again, right?
Hopefully, because it's Mirror Kirby, hopefully Kirby doesn't create an uprising and becomes the ultimate villain in one of the future games. Right, guys?
Moving past Amazing Mirror, Canvas Curse, and Mass Attack, since the latter 2 are pretty much contained to themselves,
my brain hurt Mass Effect for a sec.
Squeak Squad. At first, this game seems to have another pretty self-contained story, what with Kirby chasing after a...
It's just like seagulls in Brighton. If you're from England, you know exactly what I'm saying.
piece of stolen cake that a gang of thieves known as the Squeak Squad stole from him. However, as the game progresses and
the Squeak Squad are the villains. Okay, that makes sense.
They assumed would grant infinite power, it turns out they'd get more than they bargained for, with their leader Deroach being possessed by Dark Nebula.
That fool can use instant transmission?
Been sealed away in a forgotten era, left alone for eons. And much like the rest of its kind, Dark Nebula would be no match for Kirby, being
I'm gonna be honest,
decimated by the Triple Star.
The fact that Kirby's out here fighting these intergalactic menaces is insane. Just off this alone, I was expecting like very specific feats as far as like, I don't know, Kirby can bench press like a black hole or something crazy like that. But just hearing it like this, like he's fighting literal dark matter. Like, yeah, I get it.
Now, with all those bits and pieces of lore out of the way, it's finally time for the next massive truckload of lore in the form of a little conniving alien who crash lands on Dreamland.
Okay.
Enter Maglor, the main villain of Kirby's Return to Dreamland, who solely through dialogue
I've not played any of these.
a lot of important stuff. But before anything else, let's talk about the Ancients. First referred to as such by Maglor, the Ancients
I see, so
were
this is
highly
where we learn a lot of that
civilization
stuff.
Who mysteriously vanished at some point in history due to an unknown cause. Originally, they all lived on Halkandra, a planet extremely far away, hidden in another dimension. Now, coincidentally, Maglor
Dimension
also
hopping
says
now.
he's native to Halkandra as well, though considering his history with telling the truth, that could very well be false.
Kirby is so much more sci-fi than I would have imagined.
While it does seem he's telling the
Like,
truth
obviously he travels on stars, but
Halkandra, rather than excavating it in Dangerous Dinner, he most likely just stole the thing and heavily modified it into a weapon to kill Landia, an endeavor that didn't exactly
Cerberus?
have the best results. Alongside the lore Star Cutter, the Ancients were also responsible for a plethora of other amazing relics of untold power, with clockwork stars and items that bring dreams to life being two references he gives. Off
wait,
the
so
bat, that
multiple.
connects
So
quite a
that's,
few
they
dots.
all came from the, so they're rooted in the ancient civilization. So my Dragon Ball equivalent, to make a comparison just so that my mind is keeping up with everything, the ancient civilization is almost kind of like the Namekians and the stuff they built being kind of preserved through time and space regarding like the Dragon Balls, you know? That's interesting.
Plus, on a side note, when you meet certain conditions on the extra mode for Return to Dreamland, Maglor mentions he actually came to Dreamland already knowing about Kirby, with someone he knows very well,
Time travel?
having fought with Kirby in the past. Based on these implications and some other information found in later
Kirby
games,
time travel
this
back?
mysterious figure is most likely Marx from Superstar, essentially confirming that he survived the explosion of Nova. So fast forward a bit through the story, and once Maglor tricks Kirby into defeating Landia for the Master Crown it protects, he immediately puts it on the first chance he...
I like how I could hear Kirby's victory music as he was doing the dance, by the way. Like, just because I haven't played a ton of Kirby doesn't mean that that's not iconic enough for it to stick in my head.
gets, activating the crown and transforming into a much more sinister form, intending to conquer the entire universe with his new
Day-to-day's face.
However, like those who seeked relics of untold power before him, Maglor wasn't exactly aware of the Master Crown's true nature, and as his battle with Kirby progressed, the crown
Okay, Master Hand and Crazy Hand, what's going on over there?
Present before when it was under Landia's nullifying effect on it. Maybe it's the sudden appearance of an eye on the front of the crown, or maybe it's the fact that it's clearly gone from a crown to an immovable headpiece. But whatever it is, there's no doubt
also, like,
that the crown
a dragon
itself
claw, not
is
even a dragon claw, like a
sentient,
talon.
and rather than Maglor utilizing its powers, it's the Master Crown itself utilizing Maglor.
Almost like
Just
dark
take
matter.
The third phase of his fight, where after Maglor fails to defeat Kirby even with the power of the Master Crown, the crown takes things into its own hands, completely
This is like dark
Maglor
matter.
into a projection of itself, all but confirming the origin of the Master Crown's power with a certain characteristic that sometimes appears within Maglor's mouth. All in all, Maglor definitely learned never to play with the powers of literal dark gods ever again, and went on to take
Oh, I thought he
the
died.
more positive venture of building amusement parks.
Yo, Kirby is hilarious, dude. Hold on, you're telling me that bro tried to use the power of darkness, and then when that didn't work out, he said, all right, I'm gonna build Universal Studios. What?
Next up, we'll be heading to the scenic heights of Floralia, a group of 6 floating islands that Kirby finds himself in after his house was swept up by the Dreamstalk.
Well, that's dread. Good thing he can float.
Alongside Kirby, King Dedede was also swept up with a spider-like mage named Termina,
That looked like
mistaking
they
him
took his
for
life
the hero
away.
of Dreamland and kidnapping him as a result.
Thought Dedede was
While
Kirby.
Floralia seems peaceful, it's actually ruled by a tyrannical queen who will stop at nothing to assure her rule is never disturbed. Overall, a seemingly simple plot for a Kirby game, all things considered. Well, at least it appears that way. Once the main story reaches its climax and Kirby meets the vanity-obsessed Queen Sectonia, there's clearly something off, especially considering the Queen would go as far as to physically fuse with the Dreamstalk solely in an attempt to preserve her beauty for all eternity.
Oh, my brain was thinking it was gonna turn her unbeautiful, but no, she was trying to preserve her beauty through that. Just take a picture, like, damn. They got cameras in the Kirbyverse?
We'll need to look at the other modes within Triple Deluxe, because much like Meta Nightmare Ultra before it, Triple Deluxe brings Dedede to her, another what-if scenario where the mode shows what would happen if King Dedede climbed the Dreamstalk instead of Kirby. Now, much like its Meta Knight counterpart, the only real difference in this mode is its finale, where after defeating Queen Sectonia, out of seemingly nowhere, the Dimension Mirror from Amazing Mirror appears, forcing Dedede to fight the Mirror World version of himself, Shadow Dedede.
Oh, did we see the Shadow Dedede when we previously saw that world? We saw Meta Knight Shadow
itself to reveal an even edgier, dark Meta Knight, hungry for revenge.
Well, there we go. Welcome back. Speak of the devil.
Based on information spread across a variety of pause screens, before the events of Triple Deluxe, Queen Sectonia wasn't always a tyrannical monster bent on world domination.
Was she taken over by her dark self? That would be crazy.
Looking much like her then best friend at the time, Tyranza. You see, at this point, Tyranza actually had feelings for Sectonia, and as a gift to her, went into the mirror world and stole the Dimension Mirror, not knowing the mirror actually served as a prison for
that's why that's there. That makes sense.
Being defeated, had been festering in there, slowly but surely corrupting the very mirror itself with his hatred.
I will say, stuff like enemies returning and like the continuous lore, the continuity of the Kirby games seems really fun in a way that I wish Pokemon did. You know, I feel like for fans of Kirby, there's so much that continuously creeps back up or surprises you that comes back up from the past games. I need more of that in my Pokemon games specifically.
So in turn, once Sectonia got the mirror from Tyranza, it slowly began to change her the more she gazed into it. Soon,
her dark self was taking over.
She'd use magic to make herself more beautiful, resulting in the wasp-like
That's where the obsession came
from.
Her
with in the game. And once she gazed into the mirror enough, just about every shred of her former self had vanished, being replaced by an endless hunger for power and beauty. Fast forwarding a bit back to the events of the main story, the Sectonia you see here is but a husk of her former self, with even Tyranza realizing that the only solution to save both Sectonia and her subjects is to help Kirby permanently put an end to her.
They killing the queen! Jesus Christ, that's crazy. When Red and Blue showed up in Gen 7, yes, when I say this is what I want Pokemon to do more of, stuff like that. I want to see stuff like Gen 7. I know that was the 20th anniversary, so they specifically put work into doing stuff like that. Like Luca and Annabelle returning, Red and Blue, Cynthia. But I would like it to be more consistent throughout Pokemon games, not just in Celebration games.
Definitely a victory without a doubt, what with the Sky People finally being freed from Sectonia's Iron Fist. For Tyranza, it's bittersweet, since although he knew it had to be done, he can't help but mourn the loss of the one he loved.
Did he just fastball special him?
Wasn't that delightful? If you thought that was depressing, just wait until you see what's next.
So Kirby's a murderer. Hold on.
Long after the events of Triple
I didn't expect Kirby to be a killer, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of shocking.
Peace, its inhabitants living out their lives as they always have, when suddenly, out of nowhere, the sky was blotted out by something immense.
Why does this man think he's Batman?
Except instead of that sphere being made up of a matter most dark, this one was an immense space
Dark Matter's Eye
called the Access Arc, home of the Haltman Works Company, a company infamous across the galaxy for mechanizing entire planets and harvesting their natural resources. So in turn, return, while Kirby was sleeping under a tree, King Dedede and Meta Knight watched on in horror as Planet Popstar was completely overwhelmed within a matter of minutes. Any retaliation soon proving to be futile. Though like always, not everything is exactly as it seems, and this time it won't take any extra modes to reveal that. So as Kirby retaliates against the Access Arc, destroying each of its 5 legs embedded into the planet, he meets the executive secretary.
My secretary? As far as destroying each leg, isn't that kind of dangerous? Because wouldn't it just like flatten your planet once it lands?
He meets the executive secretary of the company, Susie, and although she
Haltman, like HAL Laboratory?
Conversations with Kirby, she does mention a certain mother computer that will become extremely important in a bit, because once Kirby destroys all 5 legs and enters the Access Arc, he meets President Haltman, the supposed mastermind.
So this is the president.
Invasion of Popstar and all the planets before it.
So what does he want to do? Like, is he Simon Cowell? He wants to make it X Factor down there?
An extremely powerful supercomputer built using the blueprints and knowledge left behind by an advanced civilization. Well, after being beaten by Kirby, things take a turn for the worse, because once the enraged Haltman decides to activate Star Dream...
Look, I just saw Invincible. As soon as I see a brother put a helmet on his head, I know it's not going to go good.
Susie jumps in and takes his control helmet off in the process.
But wait, she's the villain?
Him vulnerable to be analyzed and assimilated into the now sentient computer. Though wait a second.
What did I tell you though? I told you as soon as he put that helmet on.
Once again, let's rewind everything a bit. By yet again piecing together the information spread across countless pause screens throughout the game, long before the events of the main story, the Haltman Works Company was simply a robotics company led by Max Prophet Haltman alongside his then young daughter, Susanna, nicknamed Susie. At some point
so that's his daughter.
Across space, as we already know, they came across the blueprints for a powerful wish-granting supercomputer, and immediately
she didn't want that.
Work on rebuilding it. However, during this process, meanwhile Haltman was testing Star Dream's space-time transport program, there was a terrible accident warping the young Susie.
She was involved in
another dimension. Thankfully, Susie would survive the ordeal and eventually return to her father as an adult.
Was it the Dark World, Susie? Is that what's going on?
Her dismay, Haltman would not be the same man she remembered him as. You see, when the accident occurred, Haltman believed his daughter had been killed in the process, and stricken with grief,
so it changed his values and what he was doing with the company.
Star Dream in order to bring her back. Unfortunately though, due to Star Dream and its mental interface not being complete, Haltman began to lose both his compassion and memory of his daughter, changing the goal of his company from her revival to infinite prosperity. It also be at this point that Haltman would
she said no more greed.
Planets and harvesting their resources, as in the business plan drafted by Star Dream, it was the most effective way to maintain eternal prosperity for the company. However, by this point, Haltman still wasn't completely gone, and once he laid eyes on Susie for the first time in years, he sensed a faint familiarity with her, in turn making her his executive assistant.
This man didn't realize this was his daughter the whole time? I just kind of assumed he knew. He didn't clock on?
Going back to the climax of the main story now, after seeing what her father had become, in order to teach him a lesson, Susie had been making preparations to steal Star Dream and sell it off to any startup company that wanted it. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to anyone, after analyzing the universe through the Haltman Works Company and being exposed to the deranged Haltman's desire to mechanize everything, Star Dream had developed an extreme hatred for all forms of life. So as a result, once Susie interrupted the process of Star Dream, the computer took to absorbing all that was left of Haltman's memories down to its very soul.
So he would never remember his...
into an all-powerful being bent on mass destruction. Of course now, realizing the grave mistake she just made, Susie completely changes her tune and sends Kirby on his way to take down the godlike supercomputer given the soul of a broken man.
Wait, Kirby's in Gundam? This man got a whole Megazord right now. That's crazy.
Because it doesn't end there. As Kirby fights...
Get in the Ava, Kirby.
The actual halberd of all things, to make itself stronger, Star Dream attaches itself to the Access
This is actually a really cool plot, though. Dude, I really slept on the Kirby games.
Ironically enough, this also ends up completing Star Dream, as underneath the steel plating of the Access Arc, it's revealed that the entire ship was actually a repurposed Clockwork.
I was gonna say, not that face again, bro. That cursed... Oh my god.
with Star Dream being the final piece to reactivate it. Yet again, technology
Thing looks
that was
straight out of
meant
the
to be used
Teletubbies.
for the good of everyone, fallen into the wrong hands.
Well, now it makes sense
Before
that
we
Kirby
move
should
on
have
to
destroyed
the
it. That's
as of
true.
now final chunk of
Like way
Kirby
back when.
lore, Planet Robobot
There's
has
so
a
much.
bit more in store for us.
There's a lot to process with this. I don't know if I'm gonna remember all of this. I feel like now I need to go back and play back all the Kirby games, or like as many as I possibly can. If you guys want to see that, let me know, because these are actually pretty fire.
Like Superstar Ultra and Triple Deluxe, Robobot brought in yet another what-if scenario with Meta Nightmare Returns. A mode
so
that,
the Meta
while
Knight
does
stuff
give
doesn't seem
some
to be
pretty
like fully
valuable
canon.
off-screen info, has a finale that is just insane. So in this particular what-if timeline, once Meta Knight defeats Haltman, Stardream
It's really like the
recognizes
Riku
him
to
as
Kirby
its new
Sora.
admin and decides to test his abilities. And again, while this section doesn't really contain too much lore, it more just goes to show just how powerful Stardream is.
Sorry, now the more I think about it, the more Kirby has in common with Kingdom Hearts than I actually would have thought. It's kind of funny that I brought up Sora in the intro of this video now, because like fighting off darkness with the power of like dreams and positive energy, is that not like Sora versus like the light versus the darkness? Wow, well that's kind of crazy.
Being capable of not only show just how powerful Stardream is, with it being capable of not only producing a clone of the original Dark Matter.
Oh wow, seeing it in 3D is kind of cool.
As well, with it even going as far as
Meta
to
Knight?
summon Galactonite, who in retaliation immediately destroys the computer.
Jesus,
But,
that was
hey,
quick.
that mode aside, in Robobot's True Arena, there's another fun little tidbit Hal decided to sneak in. Basically, in the final phase of the Stardream fight, when Stardream sucks Kirby into its core, every time you destroy a piece of Stardream's internal mechanisms, you can actually hear a distorted version of Haltman screaming in pain, showing that while Stardream had erased most of his soul,
That's
fragments
dark.
of it still remain, forever trapped within the
That's
malevolent
so
Nova until
dark.
someone destroys it for good.
I know he had to go, but Kirby really do just be killing people.
Get ready for quite possibly one of the most important lore dumps in Kirby history with the story of Kirby's star allies. Long ago, in deep space, a certain dark power was sealed away within a purple crystal called the Jamba Heart by a group of unknown heroes.
Kirby
They
Infinity Stones?
accomplished this by embedding several heart spears within the crystal to seal the evil away. However, many eons later, long after those said heroes had vanished, a new group arose who, instead of wanting to seal the darkness, revered it and yearned for its return. One
see.
such member of this
Vivi
group
from
came
Final
very
Fantasy?
close to their goal as well, succeeding in removing the
No,
heart spears trapped
it
in
looks
the darkness.
just like
The only
Homeboy from
problem
earlier.
was, since he didn't fully understand how to break the seal himself, the ritual went wrong, causing the Jamba Heart to explode, sending its fragments all over the galaxy, Pop Star included. Kirby set out to take action, and this time he wasn't alone. You see, in terms of Kirby games, Star Allies has honestly
This is like the
Infinity
Avengers,
War of
right?
the series,
Yeah.
with friends and foes from past games.
Right, they're all there. Everyone is here, but Kirby version specific.
It's not like they're just shoved in to be in the game, as there's even explanations to some of the
That
more unlikely
is dope.
allies
I
coming
like
to
that.
Kirby's
I like
aid.
that a lot.
For Marks, as was shown in the True Arena cutscene in
Right.
Superstar Ultra, he did actually manage to survive his head-on collision with Nova, only instead of taking revenge like he did in that timeline, he changed himself for the better. For Dark Meta Knight, probably the sketchiest dream friend out of them all, he's mainly just interested in the dark powers of the Jamba Heart, probably
I mean,
due to
that
a
makes sense,
similarity
right?
with his lost master. For DeRoach, well, he just wants to steal the Jamba Hearts for himself. As he
Checks
thinks
out.
they're
Okay, so they're all in
ordinary
character.
souls.
I
For
like
Durand-
that. I wonder if they had this game in mind when they were writing all the previous characters, or whether or not they just had to come up with the excuses as they were making this game, because it's kind of cool how it all ties in. I like this.
Sadly, he still hasn't been able to let go of Sectonia and believes that if he goes to the altar of the divine Terminus, he'll be able to bring her back to life. And finally, for Susie, following in her late
like
father's
Susie's design.
footsteps, she's begun to rebuild his company, determined to continue his work of
As long as she
mechanizing
doesn't
entire
follow up like him,
planets.
though.
So okay,
Wait, what?
with the
Oh, okay. So she's not now she's trying to protect the planet. She's not trying to suck up their resources. That caught me off guard for a sec. I was about to say, what the hell happened to her?
determined to continue his work of mechanizing entire planets.
Okay, so his original goal.
With the surface level stuff out of the way, let's get back to the main story. As Kirby liberated countless individuals,
look at this dude, what the
Jamba Heart's fragments, he'd come across a massive spaceship
it powers them up like that?
landed on Popstar, the Jam Bastion, housing 3 mage sisters intent on collecting the Jamba Heart's fragments. And while
the Powerpuff
Kirby
Girls,
would end
random.
up thwarting their plans by defeating all 3 of them, it wouldn't slow down their master one bit, as once Kirby got to the Jambandra base, home to the 3 mage sisters and their master, it'd soon become pretty obvious what kind of being was sealed away within the Jamba Heart. Though by far,
Don't tell
from
me.
the absolutely massive amount of lore
Dark matter?
hidden in pause screens throughout the game, much like Haltman before him, Highness, the mastermind behind the release of the Jamba Hearts, reveals an incredible amount of information solely through his quick conversation with Kirby. So for the sake of you all, and so we don't jump around too much, let's start from the very
man's going
beginning.
crazy.
As
Imagine
we
him on the
already
dance floor.
know, long ago, there existed the Ancients,
Right.
a widespread civilization responsible for a lot of the things you see in Kirby.
So I imagine you're related
However,
to him.
What we didn't know until
mentioned
now
earlier.
is that the Ancients were actually split into two
different
factions.
groups.
Those who relied on science and machines, and those who relied on magic, with the latter also dabbling with dark matter. For a while,
Interesting.
the two seemed to coexist with one another, with the magical Ancients even being the ones to stop a galactic crisis that threatened everything, which, while not confirmed, is heavily implied to be Galactonite. Plus, this is
What?
also supported by the fact that he comes out of a portal Highness made in the what-if mode of Star Allies. Though one day, for some unknown reason, the scientific Ancients decided their magical counterparts were too much of a threat and betrayed them by banishing them to the edge of the galaxy in fear of their dominion over dark matter. And it's not like the magical
That's
Ancients
unfortunate.
were even remotely evil either.
Yeah.
Just take Highness. Long before his clan was betrayed and banished, he was actually a very kind individual.
Dude, it's one of those where, like, innocent people being outcast out of fear actually, like, is what makes you have to fear them. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
When he used to travel freely across worlds, he happened upon 3 girls. One nearly freezing to death in a blizzard, one burning
In fire?
alive in an inferno,
Okay.
and one being on the verge of death right after she
Interesting.
attempted to take her own life by getting struck by lightning.
Why didn't no one tell me? You guys are trying to talk about how strong Kirby is. No one told me how dark Kirby gets.
In all 3 cases, Highness saved them. At the same time,
We got Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres over here.
unlocking their hidden potential for certain types of magic. Though after being betrayed by the scientific ancients, his once kindly heart began to become consumed by hatred and obsession. It'd be at this point that the now insane Highness would form a religion based around dark matter,
Religion?
believing that if he obtained and freed the being trapped within the Jamba Heart,
Of course it
that
was
it'd
dark
deliver
matter.
him and his followers to a promised land of sorts, at
Happy
the same
birthday.
time restoring his now shattered clan. So when Kirby finally makes it to the Divine Terminus, where Highness had been performing his ritual for who knows how long,
Look at the
he
homies. The
completely
Avengers are here.
lost himself to the darkness within his heart, becoming the exact opposite of what he once was.
I'm telling you, this is so similar to Kingdom Hearts. It's really caught me off guard. I really didn't expect to draw so many parallels when I brought up Sora. Honestly, is this like widely accepted in the Kirby community how similar some of the concepts are between those 2 series? Or am I tripping?
Even when it came to the 3 sisters he'd saved eons ago, Highness in his insane state
Is he
only
using
saw
them?
as tools to be used.
Damn, that's kinda
becoming
crazy.
Abusive towards them at times. Even once Highness was defeated, he'd become so obsessed with the revival of his Dark Lord
he
that
throw-
he sacrificed not only the 3 sisters to it, but himself, fueling the complete revival.
That's it,
of
that's just
Void
gone.
Termina.
That's it.
Now at first, Void Termina appears to be a massive hulking titan with incredibly
First of all, that was very Smash Bros. Like, and I love that. And I know Kirby Sakurai's baby. I'm not sure if he worked on these games, though. I know he stopped at a certain point, and he's coming back to work on more Kirby stuff.
destructive powers. You know, what you'd expect from a destroyer of worlds. But as the fight progresses, clearly there's something more to the humanoid than meets the eye. Just
The
in its third
eyeball.
phase, where alongside sprouting wings that look pretty familiar,
Yeah!
it's a replica of the Master Crown, all but confirming Void Termina to be the force controlling the original all along. But most importantly, there's Void Termina's 4th phase, where it straight up pulls an earthbound
Kirby in a
and copies
universe.
Kirby's face.
Yeah, I was about to
Like
say. literally Kirby's face in a universal form.
Alongside Kirby's face, as he progressed through the fight, Void Termina confirms what the entire game had been alluding to. The fact that not only is it dark matter, but it's the source of it. Now I know I'm kind of...
Oh, so this is the thing that was creating the dark matter. That's very interesting.
Territory here, but hear me out, because this just lines up too perfectly. As stated in various pause screens, Void, aka Dark Matter, exists in all dimensions, accounting for instances like Dark Mind in the Mirror World, and even Dark Crafter.
So are there versions of this across different...
Seventopia, though by far the most game-changing piece of new information expressed by these pause screens is the true nature of Dark Matter. Remember how in the Dark Matter trilogy, Zero's only real weakness was the power of positive emotions?
Right.
Well, it turns out that was a lot more important than we ever realized, because in this pause screen right here, it's revealed that depending on the type of energy that's gathered, dark matter will not always necessarily be a force of evil, explaining how gooey even
That makes sense. Okay, that's why there's a positive version. I guess hanging around with Kirby and them would...
came to be. But aside from all that, using the information we get from pause screens and the fact that Void Termina's roar is literally just a slower version of Kirby's voice, there's a pretty good chance Void Termina is actually related to Kirby, with the game heavily alluding
what the hell even...
that if Void Termina was born using purely positive energy, he could very well end up looking a lot like our titular Pink Puff.
Hold on, so is Kirby dark matter? Is that what we're getting at here? Kirby is just positive dark matter this whole time.
Dark monstrosity. And on that note, taking all of that into consideration, not only does this game pretty much spell out the origin of dark matter, but
Kirby as well.
We're given, Kirby himself may very well be the outcome of Void being birthed with pure positive energy.
That is crazy. Oh my god, the way that tied in is so perfect. Because remember at the start how I was saying Dark Matter's ability is like the antithesis to Kirby's ability. Like Kirby can also like technically like use his opponents by eating and spitting them out and gaining their abilities, where Dark Matter takes them over to use their ability. This actually just blew my mind. Dude, this is awesome.
All of Kirby lore wrapped up nicely with an Elder God. Well, not just yet, because after Void Termina was defeated, Highness would fall into a dimensional rift, absorbing all the dark energy Void left behind and encasing himself in yet another Jambo.
So now he's powered up.
Once Kirby releases him and defeats him in his corrupted state,
he slowly... Yo, he slowly walked up to that fall and forward smashed. That's crazy.
State, the three mage sisters who've also been corrupted challenge Kirby as well, leading to him both defeating them again and purifying them with a
I'm glad they got a positive end, because they were suffering
for so long. In fact, this is honestly a pretty happy ending in Kirby terms, what with there being no dead dads and no dead crushes. Plus, in a completion picture for the mode,
oh, that's cute.
Even Highness
Look at the one with the bowl cut,
returning to his old ways, relaxing
with the
three mage sisters on a beach. But wait just a second, since while Highness seems to have finally found peace within himself, there's one more looming entity they haven't touched on. In Star Allies, there's a what-if mode called Guest Star Allies, where it depicts what would happen if one of Kirby's friends confronted Highness instead of Kirby himself. And like always, it's only the finale itself that really has any noticeable changes, since instead of fighting Void Termina, Highness instead decides to open up an interdimensional portal, once again releasing Galactonite onto the world. Except things don't go how they usually do this time. Instead, a familiar butterfly lands on the tip of his sword.
Oh, like the butterfly effect?
Absorbing Galactonite's immense power and creating Morphonite, a mysterious warrior whose design actually originated from the cancelled Kirby GameCube game.
Dude, that's awesome. He looks like a Beedemon though, I'm not gonna lie. Or like one of the Night Digimon.
So as cool and completely random as Morphonite is, let's touch on that butterfly for a second, because I'm not joking when I say it's literally been with Kirby all along. While the specific orange one has only appeared in every mainline game since Return to
Dreamland. So did Kirby send it to do that, or
in general have been appearing alongside Kirby ever since the very first game, meaning a being capable of absorbing the actual strongest warrior in the galaxy has been with us this whole time.
That's insane.
Now I know what you're saying. thing. What in the
So we've never
actual
been in any
hell is
real
even
danger.
happening anymore with Kirby lore? As of now, Morphonite and the nature of the butterfly are mostly shrouded in mystery.
That's crazy.
With the only real information about them being the fact that the butterfly is a supposed being of paradise, and that Morphonite is associated with a judgment day of sorts.
Wait,
Meaning
paradise is an actual
Morphonite
paradise,
somehow
or
related to the Kirby afterlife? Absolutely insane, I know. So well, that's about it. Or at least it is for now.
that was awesome. I have a lot of thoughts. I didn't expect first of all, I think the video was very well put and brilliantly told. I do love the way that it kind of fed me information in a way that made me think, oh, it's interesting the similarities between dark matter and Kirby, and then at the end it lets me know they're essentially the same thing. That's crazy. Kirby is dark matter itself? That is not what I expected. It's far more sci-fi than I thought. I didn't really know many of the characters beyond like Bandana D, Meta Knight, and DDD from like Smash Bros, and obviously from what I played of Kirby's Forgotten Land. But this really made me want to play and check out all the Kirby games, because like the story is a lot more in-depth and intricate, and similar to a game and a franchise I love in Kingdom Hearts. And this kind of sold me. I'm not gonna lie, Nintendo, you might have to cash RPG Monger a check over here. I might have to purchase all these Kirby games.